Good morning, friends. My name is S. M. Bhagwan, lecturer in English, working at Government Polytechnic Solapur. And today in this conference, I am going to present my paper on the topic A Brief Study of Emergence and Development of Science Fiction. As we know, science fiction is an important genre in the field of literature, that is, English literature. Here, science fiction, that is another way called as sci fi, is a popular trend of writing fiction based on speculative fiction. It consists of horror, supernatural, heroic stories, and many other creations of imagination. It has paved the way to the speculative fiction which exists in the virtual world. Virtual reality is one of the important facets of science fiction. This paper throws light on the development and some of the important works and also the important writers of science fiction. In this paper, I have suggested some keywords. These keywords are science fiction, speculative fiction, virtual world, parallel universe, aliens, etc. Science fiction, alternately called as sci fi, is a trend of writing fiction based on speculation, as I told you earlier. It presupposes what if thinking and takes us in the world of virtual reality. Virtual universe or virtual life is one of the important aspects of science fiction. Exact definition of science fiction is unavailable as there is no consensus among the scholars of the science fiction. But some of the experts have tried to define the science fiction. Isaac Asimov defines science fiction like this. Science fiction can be defined as that branch of literature which deals with the reaction of human beings to changes in society, in science, and technology. Robert A. Heinlein defines it is a realistic speculation about the possible future events based solidly on adequate knowledge of the real world, past, and the present, and on a thorough understanding of the nature and significance of the scientific method. Above definitions relate science fiction in with human reaction to the changes in science and technology. Science and technology are ever changing, and the writers of science fiction get the novel ideas from it and write the speculative fiction. It also imagines the possible future events, and it is also based on the solid knowledge of the happenings in the world. It has thorough understanding of the nature and significance of scientific methods. Science fiction is broadly classified into hard science fiction and soft science fiction. Stories based on physics, mathematics, astronomy, and engineering are identified as hard science fiction, and stories that are based on zoology, botany, social science, and mycology constitute soft science fiction. Regarding the origin, history, and development of science fiction, there are two schools of thought which differ tremendously from each other. The first school believes that the roots of science fiction can be found in the ancient Sumerian mythology. According to the second school, science fiction emerged in the 17th and early 19th centuries as this period witnessed scientific revolution and many scientific discoveries in astronomy, physics, and mathematics. Historically, Ovid's Metamorphoses and Beowulf have the fantastical and science fiction element in them. Epic of Gilgamesh is one more book in which science fiction elements are evident. 1001 Nights, that is Arabian Nights, also carries the elements of science fiction. In Japan, Urashimo Taro is an early tale describing science traveling forward in time in future. Moreover, during the 10th century, during the 10th century, Japanese narrative tales The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter is also considered as the proto science fiction. In medieval Europe, science fiction themes are found in chivalric romances where the hero of the story travels in time and performs so many impossible actions. The 19th century witnessed a transition from the former tradition. In this period, Mary Shelley is given the credit of writing the first science fiction book, that is, Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus. It was published in 1818. Her another futuristic novel, The Last Man, is also treated as the first true science fiction novel. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is an important futuristic science fiction novel which focuses on the trends like reproducing technology and social engineering. Furthermore, Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake is also one more futuristic and speculative adventure romance. Doris Lessing's A Noble Laureate has the credit of writing five science fiction novels, Canops in Argos Archives. In it, she focuses on the evolution of different societies over a great period of time. She opined, I believe that all novels deal with character and it is to express character, not to preach doctrines or sing song, that the form of the novel, so clumsy, verbose, and undramatic, so rich, elastic, and alive, has been evolved. The great novelists have brought us to see whatever they wish to us see through some characters, otherwise, they would not be novelists, but poets, historians, and pamphleteers. Jules Verne is also known for his adventure stories like Journey to the Center of the Earth, From the Earth to the Moon, and the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. In the later 19th century, the scientific romances of H.G. Wells were very popular. His Last and First Men, Odd John, Star Maker, and Sirius contain considerable science fiction elements in it. In France, J. H. Rosny N is regarded as the father of French science fiction. Rudyard Kipling is also has also contributed a lot in the development of genre by writing Ariel Board of Control stories and the Army of a Dream. George Bernard Shaw's Back to Methuselah is also an example of science fiction. George Orwell's 1984 is an excellent example of social science fiction in dystopian mode. The new wave science fiction writers in 1960s contributed a lot for the development of science fiction. The writers like Frank Herbert, Samuel R. Delancey, Ursula K. Le Guin, Norman Spinrad, Theodore Sturgeon, John Brunner, Roger Zelazny, Harlan Ellison, Isaac Asimov, John Brunner, J.G. Ballard, and Robert A. Heinlein explored language and society of their time in their literature. They experimented with the style and form of storytelling in fiction. They also focused on the contemporary political issues in their writings. They also tried to their hand on future history in their stories. Social and biological changes were also dealt with very scrupulously by the new wave science fiction writers. They also inspired science fiction films of their time. Some writers like Philip K. Dick dealt with the metaphysics of mind in their successive novels. All these factors unanimously paved the way for the development of a new genre, that is cyberpunk literature. With the rise of the computer technology in the 1980s, a drastic change came into the imaginative science fiction writing. The application of computer technology in each and every domain of human life saw a new change in fiction writing that was recognized as the cyberpunk literature. It is a form of writing science fiction in dystopian form, and ill effects of advancement in the field of science and technology could be easily seen in these works. It focused prominently on the high tech and low life. This type of fiction was full of hackers, code breaking, realistic sword fighting, artificial intelligence, mathematics, philosophy, aliens, parallel universe, habitation on the fictional planet, and the life. The writers like William Gibson, Bruce Sterling, John Shirley, and Neil Stephenson also tried their hand in this new trend of writing. In Japan, the cyberpunk work in the name of manga and anime were produced on a large scale during the 1980s. Most of the cyberpunk stories were adapted by screenplay writers and made it into the movies. Many video games were developed on the theme of cyberpunk orientation. Steampunk is one more development of science fiction which took its inspiration from the steam engine power. It is also one more subgenre of science fiction. The issues like environmental conservation, biotechnology, nanotechnology found its way in cyberpunk and steampunk fiction in the late 20th century. The roots of the cyberpunk literature are found in new wave writers of the 1960s. The setting of cyberpunk novel is an imaginary future land. Science fiction is popularized on global scale by some writers of different countries. The writers from America, China, Japan, Russia, India practiced fictional fantastic stories dealing with science fiction elements. In China, science fiction was popularized by the writers like Liang Qichao and Kang Youwei. They translated the works of authors during the late Qing dynasty. Liang Qiao also translated Jules Verne's 2 years vacation into Chinese. Lu Xun became popular by translating Jules Verne's From the Earth to the Moon and The Journey to the Center of the Earth into the Chinese, and H. G. Wells' classic stories. In India, science fiction was popularized by the writers like Sumit Basu, Minamati Bhaskar, Rimi B. Chatterjee, Indra Pramit Das, Sukanya Datta, Amitabh Ghosh, Georgiana Kamsika, Lakshman Londhe, Gokul Nanda Mahapatra, Anil Menon, Premendra Mitra, Bal Phondke, Satyajit Ray, Vandana Singh, Kumudini Mahapatra, Jayant Narlikar, and the others. All these writers wrote science fiction in English, Marathi, Bengali, Kannada, and other regional languages as well. They wrote the stories based on fantasy and dealt with the futuristic element in their writings. Some of the writers wrote fantastic stories for the entertainment of children. These writers presented the scientific ideas and the new technology through their works. The modern masters of science fiction include Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Heinlein, Ursula Le Guin, Joanna Russ, Ray Bradbury, Ursula Guin, Neil Stephenson, Kim Stanley Robinson, Orson Scott, Roger Zelensky, and R. A. Lafferty. In the works of Arthur C. Clarke, we found we come across with space travel and future exploration. He was awarded the Popular Nebula and Hugo Awards for his work. Robert Heinlein was an aeronautical engineer and naval officer. He is also known for his scientific accuracy in his works. He tried his hand in fiction as well as in non-fiction with the same ease. Ursula K. Le Guin is known for her speculative science fiction stories. She also wrote science fiction stories for children. She was the winner of Nebula and Hugo Award for her best novels. She dealt with the gender and sexuality on a fictional planet in her famous novel, The Left Hand of Darkness. The word for the world is forest. Explore the theme of colonialism and militarism. She also wrote short stories on speculative fiction. The next writer in this trend is Neil Stephenson, who is an American writer. He is also known for his speculative fiction, having dealt with the themes like parallel universe, robotics, imaginary planets, aliens, alternate history, mathematics, philosophy, and so on. His Snow Crash is a novel written in the late cyberpunk or post cyberpunk tradition, dealing with computer viruses and other high tech themes. Stephenson's next solo novel, The Diamond Age, or A Young Lady's Illustrated Primer, introduced many of today's real world technological discoveries. Later on, he wrote his next speculative novel, Anathem, which is set in an Earth like world. that deals with the metaphysics and ancient Greek philosophy. In June 2019, his next novel, Fall or Dodge in Hell, was published. It is a near future novel and explores mind uploading into the cloud. Joanna Russ is one more important name in this tradition. She is popularly known for her radical feminist and known as a science fiction writer in 1960 in America. She is known for her best work The Female Man, which is written in utopian tradition. Feminist science fiction again a subgenre in the science fiction, and she was the practitioner of the same. Her writing is characterized by humor and irony. Her notable works are Picnic on Paradise and Chaos Died, The Female Man, We Who Are About To, The Two of Them, and On Strike Against God, a lesbian love story. Another writer in this trend is Kim Stanley Robinson, who has 22 science fiction novels to his credit. His novels include ecological, cultural, political themes in which he has shown the scientists as the heroes of the novel. Robert Markley has argued that Robinson views science fiction as the model for utopian politics, even in Robinson's novels that don't seem to be sci fi novels, like Shaman, the inductive method, the collective search for regular knowledge about the world that can be put to use for the good for all is front and center. Another important figure in modern science fiction is Orson Scott Card. He is famous for Ender's Game, which was published in 1985, and its a sequel, Speaker for the Dead. He was highly influenced by the classic literature and popular fantasy fiction. He was the winner of Locus Fantasy Award. The emergence and development of science fiction has gone through different phases. Science fiction saw a drastic change in its themes and presentations during these phases. The new development in the field of science and technology has brought about tremendous changes in human life. These changes influenced the writers of science fiction of every time, and science fiction flourished with the course of the time. The progress in science fiction and technology, the progress in science and technology affected human life, society, and culture. The world is enjoying the fruits of innovations of technology and also experiencing the destruction which are evident from the two world wars. With the growth of science and technology, there is a tremendous scope for more innovative ideas, and we will see much more novel ideas, subgenres, and techniques in future in science fiction writing. So, this was my uh, presentation. I think you would like it, and I am very happy to share my presentation with you people. Thank you very much.